Welcome, friends, to the Do Less, Be More channel. I'm Amy, and this is week 4 of the 8 Weeks to Simplify Your Life challenge. Now, if you haven't already done so, be sure that you watch the intro video, 8 Weeks to Simplify Every Area of Your Life, as well as the video for week 1, which is Mental Clarity and Decluttering the Mind. In these two videos, I offer instructions and clarification for you to help you optimize results for yourself throughout this challenge. So watch those videos first, then dive into this week's challenge. Okay, so everything you own, everything you do, and everyone you spend time with costs you something. How we relate to others impacts the quality of our human experience, and if our relationships are complicated, then our life experience is going to be complicated as well. So this week I want to dive into ways in which we can simplify our relationships. The 3 different options this week that I have to offer will help you simplify your communication, your interactions, and your connections with others. I want you to choose from 1. Approach daily interactions with a sense of common humanity. 2. Practice nonviolent communication for conflict resolution. And 3. Close the door on stale relationships. So, number 1, approach daily interactions with a sense of common humanity. The quality of the interactions with others that you have throughout your day greatly impacts how you feel and how your day goes. If you're finding that you're experiencing a lot of frustration, disappointment, confusion, or impatience in your interactions with others, whether those interactions are online or in real life, or with strangers, or your loved ones, or coworkers, then I want you to intentionally pause in those moments of negative feelings and remember our common humanity. I want you to give the benefit of the doubt and recognize that it is impossible for you to know everything that that other person is experiencing. All that you can do is try to understand by being genuinely curious about their experiencing. Now, this requires setting that fun little ego aside, right? And remember that we're all inspired by love, every single one of us. We are all doing the best that we can with what we've got. I believe that daily interactions can get complicated when we forget our common humanity, when judgment or fear takes place of compassion, right? When that fear is overriding our unconditional love. Now, I want to share with you my thoughts on love because I believe that all love is unconditional and that it cannot be any other way. Love is the opposite of fear, and fear exists only when there is an absence of knowing, a lack of understanding, right? So our first task when things get complicated in our daily interactions, so when you feel that frustration, impatience, or disappointment in the other, is to seek to understand from a compassionate heart space. Because when you're knowing, when your understanding becomes wholehearted and complete, fear will dissipate, leaving you to abide and relate to the other from a place of unconditional love, right? It is so much simpler when you are operating from that compassionate, loving space of unity. So that's option number 1. Remember our common humanity throughout our daily interactions. Okay, the second option is to try out NVC, which is nonviolent communication. So I really enjoy working through conflict, even when it's really uncomfortable and hard, and especially when we're able to come out on the other side of the conflict together. I believe that conflict is simply a growth opportunity. Conflict is 2 humans sharing a problem that they get to resolve together. And in doing so, they have the opportunity to strengthen their connection and better understand themselves on a deeper level. Conflict can make things very complicated when we have poor communication skills, when our defenses are up, right? And so this is when or where NVC comes in. We want to use NVC or nonviolent communication when discussing problems or things that trigger us. So this is about taking responsibility in relationships and asking for your needs to be met using I statements. We use I statements in nonviolent communication to take responsibility for how we feel, what we think, and what we need, as opposed to projecting blame and instigating defensiveness. When our defenses go up, we struggle to listen, to be empathetic, to understand, which makes things complicated. Thankfully, NVC is simple. The basic template for NVC goes like this. I noticed, or when. I feel, or I felt. I think, or the story that I'm telling myself is. I need, okay? And then you make your request. So it's something like, would you consider? It's something that will help you both heal this conflict and prevent repeat triggers. So here's an example for you. Say that I am triggered by my partner being on their phone at the dinner table. Using nonviolent communication, I would say, when you are on your phone while we eat dinner, I feel hurt. See here, I'm naming the thing I noticed. It's just a fact, and I'm naming how that thing makes me feel. The story that I'm telling myself is that you don't value our time together and that I'm not as important as social media or your emails. There, I am sharing what I think. It's my truth, okay? I need to know that you value quality connection time with me. So that's me naming my need. Would you be willing to turn our phones off and keep them out of the dining room during mealtime? That's me making my reasonable request. It's simple, yes? So I noticed, I felt, I thought, I need. That's nonviolent communication in a nutshell. And I'll leave the book recommendation in the description of this video for you because it's such a valuable resource and skill set to help simplify communication, especially when it comes to triggering events and conflict resolution, the things that tend to complicate or muck up our days and our relationships. The last option to offer you is to close the door on stale relationships. Now, I'm not going to speak to super negative or toxic relationships here, though cutting out toxic relationships will no doubt help to simplify your life. What I want to encourage you to do is to bring your attention to any relationships that may have run their course. These are the ones that you are hanging on to out of habit, the ones that, if you're honest with yourself when reflecting on them, you'll likely notice some complacency, codependency, or stagnancy that is present. So these are the relationships that are complicated because they aren't necessarily supporting your growth or your alignment to your higher self. And you might be in them out of obligation, comfort, or not wanting to hurt or offend the other person. These relationships may be the most challenging to close the door on, but remember, just because the relationship used to be aligned doesn't mean that it is now. And it's okay for relationships to change, evolve, or go different directions. It's better to allow that transition or natural evolution of the relationship than to restrict it by clinging on to the past. All relationships have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And because we are ever-evolving humans, we are meant to weave in and out of each other's lives. So this week, take a look at what might be the stale relationships in your life and ask yourself if you are holding yourself back in the name of comfort. Often, there's still love and respect in these stagnant relationships, so it can feel difficult to let go. It's scary to do so. What can help to intentionally close the relationship is by creating a closing ritual with the other person. You can make it ceremonial together, or it can be a heartfelt letter that you write to them. You can cut energetic cords. Do something to symbolize the ending of the relationship, the closing of the chapter. This can feel difficult. It can also be cathartic for relationships that still have love and respect within them, but have simply run their course. So those are your 3 options this week to simplify your relationships. 1, remember your common humanity throughout your daily interactions. 2, practice nonviolent communication for triggering events and conflict resolution. And 3, clear out and close the chapter on stale, stagnant relationships. So go ahead and choose one now and let me know in the comments which you're going to focus on this week. Now onto the journal prompts. Number 1, which relationships are supporting me living a simple and aligned life? Okay. Number 2, what impact do societal and familiar expectations have on how complicated my relationships are? And number 3, how can I create more interpersonal space? Reflecting on these questions will hopefully help you find ways to simplify and create more space within your relationships. And I want to close with something that Danielle Laporte said that resonates very true for me. She describes love not as a feeling, but as a virtue. Love is the undercurrent for all of our experiences and the myriad of feelings that ebb and flow throughout those experiences. So we're not our feelings, but we are love. It's when we forget that we are love that things get complicated. So be love this week as you work to simplify your relationships and the ways in which you relate to and engage with others. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to hit that like button and share this video with the people that you care about, because the collective benefits when more individuals commit to the process of simplification. Remember to keep it simple. Choose just one activity to focus on this week. Take time to reflect within your journal, and be compassionate with yourself as you simplify your communication, your interactions, and your approach to relationships so that you can live a more simple and fulfilling life. I will see you next week for week 5 of the Simplify Your Life Challenge.